People thought the Ellen controversy had already reached its peak, but then another wave of claims hit, and this one seriously caught people off guard. New reports are now tying Ellen not just to Epstein-related Pizzagate rumors, but also the whole Wayfair conspiracy, plus allegations surrounding the death of a former girlfriend beyond Anne Heche. Suddenly, this story got a whole lot darker.
In business, nothing is coincidental, or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money.
Brad Garrett, who'd been close to Ellen's show for years, suddenly said what a lot of people weren't ready to hear. According to him, Ellen's behavior behind the cameras was never some hidden secret in Hollywood. Industry insiders already knew how she treated people. And that's when the whole story shifted, because for years, Ellen DeGeneres sold the image of the cheerful, lovable TV host. Then little by little, that polished persona started falling apart.
Ellen would look at Ed and she would laugh, because I was hoping she was going to say, Ed, you can't be yelling at the crew this way. You can't be yelling at people this way. She laughed and she said, every production needs their dog.
Meaning
Ed is her dog.
Like her attack dog.
Her attack dog. So therefore, she doesn't need to do that. He took the role of being the attack dog, that she didn't have to now be the attack dog. So she didn't have to yell.
So when Ellen says she's not aware of this environment, you don't think that rings true?
It's a lie.
Muscat won 2 daytime Emmys with the show. She was let go in 2004.
As a host, she's amazing. As a host. But as a boss, and someone who's behind the scenes running the show, she's a different person. She's not the person people see.
Then 2020 happened, and the stories coming out about life behind the Ellen DeGeneres show started painting a very different picture. Former staff members described the workplace as toxic, with some claiming they were mistreated while others pointed to deeper issues with how the entire show operated. That's when things got messy fast.
You just expect a lot when you go to meet like your idol, and then when you get disappointed, it's like such a letdown.
In 2018, Dana DiMatteo flew from Chicago to Los Angeles and was delighted to be picked out of the audience to have some fun with Ellen. But then she says she was shocked when she was briefed on the comedy bit by the producers.
They tell you, you can't be smarter, funnier than Ellen. She's the comedian and the star, not you.
Ellen eventually sent a letter to her staff, claiming she wasn't aware of everything happening behind the scenes and admitting she could have handled things better. She promised changes were coming, but by that point, a lot of people weren't buying it anymore.
Ellen DeGeneres is speaking out about reports of workplace mistreatment in a letter to her staff. The talk show host shared her initial reaction to the allegations from current and former employees and revealed what actions are being taken to improve company culture. Ellen said she was disappointed to learn about the claims in a recent BuzzFeed article, citing the show's enormous growth over the years and her increased reliance on people to do their jobs as they knew I'd want them done. She went on to acknowledge that clearly some didn't.
I don't think you achieve anything by bullying people.
In a statement to ET, Warner Brothers, the studio behind Ellen's show, claims they have interviewed dozens of current and former employees in the wake of these allegations. They say that during their investigation, it was revealed that there were some deficiencies related to the show's day-to-day management.
Behind the scenes, things were getting worse. Reports claimed that some producers on the show were accused of serious misconduct. Names like Kevin Lehman and Ed Glavin were mentioned, with allegations about inappropriate behavior.
The Ellen DeGeneres show is facing new allegations this morning of rampant misconduct and harassment in the workplace. The new accusations reported by BuzzFeed News come just 2 weeks after another article on the site detailing a racist and toxic work environment. DeGeneres responded Thursday before the new article was published, apologizing and taking responsibility for what happens at the show. Warner Media is also conducting its own internal investigation. Jamie Yukis has more on the allegations.
Dozens of former staffers of the Ellen DeGeneres show, which is known for promoting kindness,
when I say be kind to one another, I really mean it.
Are sharing new details about alleged inappropriate behavior behind the scenes by senior managers. Christy Yandoli with BuzzFeed News broke the story.
So former employees who worked on the Ellen show told me that they experienced a range of harassment and misconduct and witnessed a range of it, from explicit comments to behavior and inappropriate, unwanted advances.
Before the articles released Thursday night, the show was already facing scrutiny after several former staffers described a culture of racism, fear, and intimidation in an earlier BuzzFeed article. Employees told the publication they were fired after taking medical leave or bereavement days to attend family funerals. Another former employee said she walked off the job after becoming fed up with comments about her race.
She said a head writer came up to her at a party and said, "Oh, I only know the names of the white people who work here."
In a letter to her staff obtained by CBS News Thursday, DeGeneres said she'd hoped the show would be a place of happiness where everyone would be treated with respect, and was disappointed to learn that this has not been the case. She also said the show was taking steps to correct the issues.
I've spoken to nearly 50 former employees who worked on the Ellen show. All of them say they found what their experience was behind the scenes to be in contrast to what the show makes a profit off of and what Ellen DeGeneres has built an entire brand off of, which is the Be Kind message.
Some former employees BuzzFeed News spoke with also suggest that DeGeneres needed to take more responsibility for the environment.
Even with the backlash growing, a few people still stood by Ellen. Scooter Braun publicly defended her, describing her as supportive and genuinely kind. But by then, the public narrative had already shifted. A show once seen as untouchable was now buried in controversy, and every new conversation added more pressure. The image Ellen spent years building started cracking fast, but in 2022, after the death of her ex Anne Heche, the whole thing really began to collapse.
Do you want to send her any well wishes?
Sure. I don't want anyone to be hurt.
Ellen DeGeneres is sending kind words to her ex, Anne Heche, amid her hospitalization following her life-threatening car crash.
Vehicle into a structure. We also have a structure fire, 2-story, single-family dwelling, heavy smoke showing. Keep everybody covered.
While out and about in Santa Barbara, the former daytime talk show host gave a brief comment on the actress, whom she dated from 1997 to 2000.
Have you spoken to Anne Heche at all since her accident?
Have not.
Do you want to...
We're not in touch with each other, so I wouldn't know.
It's seemingly true. Ellen and Anne have had little to no communication since their split. That's something Anne mentioned to E.T. a couple years ago.
Ellen and I haven't spoken in years, and you know, in a relationship, and I think many of us have them, you come to a fork in the road. What do you want, and what do I want? And those goals, that intent in life, is determined by the individual. And her intent and my intent were different, and that's why we separated.
On the morning of August 5th, 2022, around 10 a.m., Anne Heche stopped by a beauty store called Glass Hair and picked up a bright red wig. Later, the owner said the moment stuck with him for one reason: Anne seemed completely normal. He described her as calm, polite, fully coherent, with no slurred speech or obvious signs of being under the influence. That detail would later raise a lot of questions. Then around 10:30 a.m., Anne arrived at what's been described as a garage or storage facility, and that's where the story starts getting strange.
I'm out of here.
And this is where one theory keeps resurfacing. Some people believe Anne may no longer have been fully in control of the car at that point. Nothing has ever confirmed it, but the question keeps coming up as the timeline unfolds. Then about 30 minutes later, Ring camera footage reportedly shows Anne's blue Mini Cooper flying through a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood at an estimated 70 to 90 miles per hour, an insane speed for a residential street. Not long after that, Anne's car slammed directly into a home in the Mar Vista area. The crash was brutal, but Anne survived the impact. Witnesses said she was still conscious when neighbors ran over to help. They asked if she was okay, and Anne reportedly answered, "I'm not okay." She was alive, responsive, fully aware of what had happened. But once paramedics and the media entered the scene, the entire situation suddenly took a very different turn.
In traffic, this is a very busy street and plowed straight into this home right here and was trapped so deep inside that the house and the car caught fire and she wasn't able to be rescued for 45 minutes. Most disturbing part of this case is aerial helicopter footage showed Anne Heche being put onto a stretcher. You can see a body in some type of bag on a stretcher being wheeled into the back of an ambulance when all of a sudden the zipper breaks open and you see Anne Heche emerge suddenly out of this body bag, what looks like a body bag, and prop herself up as if she's trying to get off the stretcher or get out of the bag. They push her back down and she's put into the back of the ambulance. If you look at this footage, which is still on YouTube, comment section is ablaze with all kinds of different conspiracy theories about what that truly meant. Some people in the comments saying she came back to life, while others saying she wasn't in a body bag, it was a burn protection bag. Either way, it's one of the most unsettling clips I have ever seen. Anne was rushed to the hospital after that clip, placed in a coma, sadly never woke up. Days later, she was sadly declared brain dead from an anoxic brain injury. Her death ruled an accident by smoke inhalation and burns. But even with her death being ruled an accident, things still don't make sense and there are a ton of unanswered questions. What was the alcohol bottle doing in her car if she wasn't intoxicated and it wasn't drugs? Why was she driving at such a high rate of speed as if she was running away from something?
Police never gave a clear explanation for what happened, and eventually, the case was quietly closed without any real answers. That's when people started looking beyond the crash itself and back into Anne Heche's history with Ellen DeGeneres. By the late 90s, the two were in a high-profile relationship that sparked major controversy at the time. Their public appearances together reportedly led to backlash in Hollywood, with claims they were even shut out of certain industry events, including movie premieres.
Once you moved to New York, were you basically been gainfully employed ever since? You've probably taken
it's kind
a
of
little
amazing, other than my blacklisting for taking Ellen DeGeneres to the Volcano premiere years ago, and I didn't do a studio picture for 10 years. People don't know that part of my story or what happened to me because of that experience. But I feel very blessed that I've been able to be working for.
I remember Volcano.
You remember Volcano?
I like that movie.
Thank you. I did too, except I couldn't see the end of it because they ushered Ellen and me out of the premiere before it ended, put us in a car and said, well, we don't want you back here. We will not be accepting pictures of you and Ellen. And then I was fired. I was told before I went to the premiere with Ellen that I would be fired. And I was...
Are we talking about 90...
now you're going to put years on... yes.
Early, there was two volcanoes, Dante's Peak,
yeah, but they came out the same week.
Right.
Ours won, by the way, and then they blamed me for its failure for taking a woman. I was like, but we were number one in the box office. The confusion of how I was fired and the fact that nobody has ever acknowledged it is just shows, in a way, it shows how much further we've come. Because if that would have happened today, obviously, it wouldn't happen today, and I feel glad that I'm a part of that.
The relationship lasted until 2000. For years, the details of that breakup stayed quiet. But much later, Anne would reveal something that would shock everyone. She described Ellen as greedy, even kind of evil. In one moment she shared, Anne said she told Ellen she needed friends, support, something real. And Ellen's response? She didn't want someone who needed that.
Ellen bashing, I am here to speak the truth about a time that happened that's important to know.
Okay. Did you ever try to reach out and make peace with Ellen?
You know, every day of my life with her was reaching out to her to make peace. I think it was a very difficult thing for her to trust that I was a woman who could fall in love with a woman without being gay. And I think that was a lot to process. So I tried to make that process as simple as possible by quitting Hollywood, moving to Ojai, growing gardens, starting to write and direct, which I did with her and Sharon Stone, a movie of all things called Misconception. And nothing would satisfy her soul.
Rumors Ellen was far from nice were out there for years. What was your reaction to the toxic workplace controversy?
I felt that it was in the hands of the people who needed to speak their truth. I hadn't spoken to Ellen in years, and I feel that the stories that need to be listened to are being told.
Did the stuff about her being emotionally abusive to her staff ring true to you?
Emotional is a container for our actions that we've not healed. And unfortunately, the environment was something that I understood.
When did you know you needed to break things off with Ellen?
I think it was a slow roll when you come to understand the truth of another. I wanted desperately to have that relationship be the love of my life. That was my Cinderella story. What happened was that I was, through the circumstances, shut out from things that I cared about. And in order to make her feel that she was being loved, I would erase those things from my path, such as acting, and replace them with things that I thought would give her a foundation. As we got further and further away from me being able to be in public the way that would please, I began getting further and further away from my friends and my friendships. And one of the things that concerned me very much was that I was beginning to feel shut off and shut down and shut away. And if this answers the question, when I told Ellen that I needed to have friends, she said she did not want to have a girlfriend that needed that. And that is the day I left.
That says a lot about the dynamic between them. And when you look at what came next, that early 2000s period seems like a breaking point for Anne Heche, mentally and emotionally. Right after their breakup, something strange happened. Anne was found wandering on foot near a rural home in Fresno, California. She had abandoned her car on the side of the road for no clear reason and walked about a mile before reaching this house. When the homeowner opened the door, Anne reportedly introduced herself as Celestia, the same alternate identity she had created as a child, and claimed she was a divine being who would take people to heaven in a spaceship.
Yeah, by the way, I hear voices. You never did that.
No. I was very afraid of what people would think of me. Very afraid.
Yeah, they'd think you were crazy.
Absolutely.
The therapist would think you were crazy.
Sure.
Are you on medication today?
No.
Do you still have moments when God speaks to you?
No.
Do you still talk in another language?
Oh, no.
You are all...
I'm all here.
You're all here.
Oh, yes.
But H continues to be full of surprises and transformations. This past weekend, she got married to cameraman Coley LaFoon. They seem to be wildly in love. She met Coley while making a documentary about Ellen, but she insists he had nothing to do with their breakup. Was Coley at all worried about your sexuality? Here he'd been seeing you with Ellen.
He's an extraordinary guy. He's one of the few people I've ever met who actually embraces the same notion about sexuality that I do. Which is that you love who you love. You fall in love with a person, not a sex. And he was not threatened by it at all because he understood that I could love a woman.
Do you think you could love a woman again?
Well, hopefully I won't, because I plan to be with Coley for the rest of my life. Although people asked me this question when I was with Ellen. Well, hypothetically, if you broke up, who would you be with, a man or a woman? And I said, I can't answer that question.
When people ask you, well, I'll ask you, do you consider yourself bisexual?
I think that's a comfortable label. I do not label myself bisexual, nor do I label myself straight or gay.
Marriage. 1 year after this breakdown, 1 year after Ellen. Why so soon?
I don't think there's any other explanation except that it felt right. I want to start a family. Coley wants to start a family.
Even after Anne Heche's death, the questions surrounding her past with Ellen never fully disappeared. For years, both women stayed mostly quiet about the relationship. Ellen rarely addressed it publicly, and even decades later, claimed she never really understood why Anne ended things. Anne, meanwhile, also avoided speaking in detail about that chapter of her life for a very long time.
And also avoided going into detail, at least for a long time.
So why did you break up with Ellen?
Well, I think you know the answer to that question. I think we could probably whittle it down to one thing. If we live in loving kindness, and that is my destination and my dream for us all, I would say that was not her goal.
But that was her banner, which she led with.
Listen, when you want to steal somebody else's language, the problem is you hit a wall. Because the language is enough to drive you forth. Its purposing was enough to give her power. And the reality is, if you are not on a conscious conversation and communication with the universe and its truth, you hit a wall because you can only get furthered if your intelligence and your heart meet. And unfortunately, that she did not great.
So basically what you're saying is you can only keep up the gig for so long.
I didn't know what, as I always call God, your grandpa, Kiki. I don't know Kiki's timing. But you face what you face in the mirror every single day. And unfortunately, it's just like I say in my first book, you don't get 2 cups of insanity in and get to take 1 cup out. You meet your maker.
Okay. Well, that was a riddle, I gotta say.
Well, God is a riddle. You're gonna have to start getting used to me now.
Anne appeared on a podcast called Better Together, where she spoke more openly. In one episode, she seemed visibly uneasy, shaking, nervous, and said something that caught people's attention. She described feeling like she couldn't escape Ellen, like there was this constant pressure even years later. Then she added something else. Once Ellen had moved away, she finally felt like she could breathe again.
I'm getting to the Ellen moment of my understanding in pop culture.
We're talking about Ellen?
Yes, apparently she has gone off to Africa to join her gorillas in a peaceful retreat. So now, here's the thing about that.
Well, you know her show is off. Do you know that much pop culture?
I did know, but what I'm feeling is that finally she's enough away that I'm starting to be able to breathe again.
Really?
It's like it's like fresh air a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think that's another show. But I have to say, there is a moment that I feel like, well, you know what I feel like with Ellen in Africa? I feel like a little bit like a new man.
That is definitely a soundbite.
That's why I wrote it.
But okay, we're going to talk about this, I guess. So,
well, I mean, I don't know what else to talk about. The fact of the matter is, every single person wants to know what I'm thinking about Ellen in this time.
People are asking all the time, and we're always not
like,
saying anything, so we're going to say something, it looks like.
All right, well, what are you going to say?
Well, I mean,
I'm glad she's in Africa.
I'm going to say that her show is off the air, and we're finding now people coming to us, and we're getting information about how she blocked you in ways that we had no idea.
Oh, please extrapolate.
Well, we have friends that are coming forward. What we're finding is that show was held over apparently your head as a tool that, you know, for going out. If you're on a show, if you're in a film, they got to go through the Ellen show to promote it.
Another thread that pulled Ellen DeGeneres into the spotlight came from something that exploded online years earlier: Pizzagate and a potential connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
One thing that we know happens is when something is true, a bunch of stuff gets attached to it that's both not true and also preposterous, that allows you to sort of dismiss all of it together. Yeah. There's a lot of people thought about that with Pizzagate. And there's some stuff that I saw online that was like George W. Bush was like involved in ritual sacrifice, or you know, things along those lines, like killing bees and eating people. Wild. Yeah. What do you think that stuff is?
I don't know. I don't.
Do you think it really occurs?
What I'll say is, this is a bad week to be a total Pizzagate denialist. You would feel a lot more comfortable about it a week ago than you would this week. I don't particularly focus, or I don't want to say care. I don't. My knowledge set on it is a lot more limited on it because I don't think it's a central crux of political influence. I don't know if it's kind of almost a inside joke in a certain way. Jeffrey Epstein himself in these emails is unbelievably trolly. You know, he'll say things that are the kind of, you know, shit posts you say to a buddy or your brother or something that you don't mean.
Right.
You know, it's you're kind of cheek, yeah. But if you were a cynical, out to get you person who somehow obtained that text message, you'd say, oh, look, he said it. And so there's a lot of that going on. But the fact is I've seen a lot of images shared around the time period of when Pizzagate was popping off in 2016 that all I'll say is it doesn't look good or easily explainable. At the same time, a lot of those screenshots I have not, for most of these, for the things I've posted about or that I'm talking about here, I've gone to the Justice Department file. I've looked up the file number, confirmed whether or not the screenshot is actually what it is. For those, I have not yet, but I wouldn't feel totally confident saying there's no there. But that's about as far as I can go on that.
When you say images, what are you talking about?
Well, there's a lot of, if you look up pizza, for example, it's just as a keyword search, you'll see, or cheese or something. It looks like, in the DOJ database for these new files, you'll see a lot of things of people talking about pizza in a way that
it seems like a code.
It's kind of impossible
to imagine it's actually just
do to
pizza.
A pizza. It's about
okay.
You know what I mean?
So what do you think? Could there actually be more to this story? And if there is, how much do you believe Ellen still hasn't revealed? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over.